Good day, programmers. Today we're going to be looking at map and filter functions in Python. Now these functions have stuff in common. They both collect two arguments, which are a function and an iterable. Now if you're wondering what an iterable is, an iterable are should I say data types. They can be looped over, okay, or loops can be applied to them, such as strings. We have lists, we have tuples, and so on. So these are iterables. So the map and filter, they accept a function and an iterable, and then that function works on that iterable and returns another iterable. Now if that is confusing to you, let's just jump into it. Okay, so what is this? Okay, so I'm just gonna talk about the map function for now. So let's say we have a list. A list is an iterable, so we have 1 2 3 4 3 4 5. Okay, and we define the function, say add 2 as that function. It takes in a variable x and it returns x plus 2. Okay, so this is great. So if I said print add 2 to 1, so it's gonna basically give us a tree. So before we do that, let me save this file. So I'm going to say map underscore filter underscore .py. Now while you're saving files in Python, it's very useful not to save it as any module you want to import in the future, because if you save it as that module, instead of getting your proper module installed, your file which you've written by yourself will be imported. So that's actually a quick one to note. So great. So you can see 3 gets printed, which means we've added 2 to 1. But okay, so I'm basically going to give another function. Say this is a new x. Say x1 is equals to map. Okay, so this is the map function. You can see it's purple. So once I open this, you can see the map function collects a function, okay, and iterables. An iterable we have here is x, which is a list. Okay, so what function are we going to be giving? We're going to be giving add 2, and we are taking the variable x. Okay, so that's great. So what happens once we print x1 f5? You can see we have a map object at this. It's just giving us a location at the memory and not the actual information in it. So how do we get that? Now I said this takes a function, okay, and what iterables, and return an iterable. Okay, so what this basically means is that this map function is gonna take this function add 2, and it's going to apply it to every element on our list. So it's gonna go to the first element 1 and add 2 to it, okay, 2 and add 2 to it, add 2 to every element in this list, and return those elements as a new iterable. How do we get those elements? Now we're going to say for I in x1, I in x1, we're just going to print I. So if I run that, you're basically going to see we have 3 4 5 6 7. Now what did this do? 1 plus 2 is what? Is 3. 2 plus 2 is 4. 3 plus 2 is 5. 4 plus 2 is 6. And 5 plus 2 is 7. So you could basically see how this works for us. Now instead of looping over this, I'm just trying to show you that this is an iterable. Instead of looping over this, we can convert this to a list. So I'm just going to give list of this. And now if I go ahead and I print x1, you basically see that x1 is a list of those numbers we expected to get. Now this is very useful. It's a high ordered function. The map function is actually a high ordered function, so this is actually great. Now we're getting what we expected. Now you can define this in any way you want. You can say x minus 1 or whatever function you want to apply here. You basically want to apply to every object on this list. So those are the functions you have. That is what you basically have to define here. So that's great. That's how the map function works. Now if you want to see how the filter function works, I'm going to define another function. Here we are checking how the filter works, how the filter function basically works in Python. Now we're not going too deep into it. So I think this x here is already defined. Let's take it out of the map so it doesn't feel as if we're only using it for map. So we're basically going to be using this x2 for our filter function. Now for the filter, I'm going to define a function. Say is even is the name of the function. It takes x and returns x modulus 2 is equal to 0. Now if you use two conditions, you will know that this will return a boolean. Okay, that's great. We just get note of that, and it will only return true once this x is even. That's x modulus 2 is equal to 0. So I'm going to say x2 is equal to, now I'm saying filter, that's a function, is going to take a function and an iterable. Right, if I open this function, you say function or none and then an iterable. So that's great. It basically tells us that we can actually leave the first argument as none. Okay, so I'm going to give it a function that is even, and the iterable will be the x which we defined here. So I'm just going to write x here and close that. And this time around, I don't want to go to the stress of looping over this. So let's just immediately convert that to a list. So we open the list and we've closed it. And I can just go ahead and print x2. Okay, so let's see what we get. Okay, so we're getting only 2 and 4. Remember, the original list was what? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're basically having 2 and 4 because just 2 and 4 are even in our list. So as you can see, that is basically what we're going to be getting. Okay, so where did we get these variables from? We had 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is from our first print, that is print x1. So it's a map add 2, which is gonna, okay, this time around we defined it to be x minus 1. So that's why we're getting a strange input, because I was also confused. So it's basically minusing 1 from all our variables. So that's also creates or helps you understand how this works. The original variable is 1 here. So 1 minus 1 is basically a 0. 2 minus 1 is basically a 1, and down till the first number. Okay, so one more thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to print an x, so you can basically see what is going on. So yeah, that's very simple to perform. So this is basically how the map and the filter function works. Now basically this is the end of today's tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial, you can basically leave a like and a sub, and you can also share this video to whoever you think this video will be very useful and beneficial to. Until the next tutorial, I still remain Victor, and thanks for watching this video.